Welcome to the Quantum Leopard podcast. Quantum Leopard is a multi-award-winning, pay what you like, no punching down, no picking on the audience, gender-balanced booking, Central London Saturday night of lovely comedy, and this is its podcast. Every episode will have a recording of a real live set from one of our nights and an interview with the comedy brain behind it. We have videos of full shows up on patreon.com/Quantum Leopard, and that's going to have loads of sets that aren't in the podcast as well. We only charge when new live show videos come out. I'm your host and MC, James Ross, and this is Quantum Leopard. This episode, we have the wonderful Hasan Al-Habib. This set was recorded on the 18th of May 2024 by Dave Nattriss at Bold, and the editing was also by Dave Nattriss. The interview took place on the 29th of September 2025. Enjoy!
To do something that might not work. Salamu alaikum. MashaAllah. The Islamification of Britain is progressing well. MashaAllah. Such a pleasure to be here in the beautiful city of London. Just for context, what I just did then, that's like the Muslim version of Sweet Caroline. You know Sweet Caroline? No, because if you say to a Muslim, Salamu alaikum, they have to say it back. Doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter what they're doing. Doesn't even matter who says it to them. They have to say it back. How do you think they found Bin Laden? The Americans went cave to cave. It's called salam spelunking. It's fun. It's fun to do. It's the same reason you never see Muslims in horror films. We're too easy to locate, Habibi. Some really good Muslim horror films, though. Really good Muslim horror films you should all check out. The Bilal Witch Project. That's really good. No, that's really good. Five Nights at Fatima's. She's scary. She's scary. The Silence of the Halal Lambs. I can keep going. Because my dad's not scared of horror films. No, my dad's not scared of horror films. Because my dad is Iraqi. You can't be scared of a horror film if you grew up under Saddam Hussein. My dad went to see the film Get Out, came out of the cinema and was like, Hasan, I never see such a unfunny rom-com. Rom-com! Ya Allah. I am very scared of horror films, though. I'm really scared of horror films. Because I didn't grow up under Saddam Hussein. Just for context, Saddam Hussein sent Iraq into several pointless, bloody wars. One of them was literally just over oil. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis killed, no longer with us. The man is a war criminal. Everyone knows that he's a war criminal. My childhood was completely different. I grew up under Tony Blair. Guys, there's no parallels there, so just don't bother looking for any. That's what I'll say. My dad also, he's grown up in this country, he's been in this country way longer than he's been in Iraq. Which I'm telling you because the man has no reason to sound as Iraqi as he does. My dad does this, he uses English idiom, but he refuses to use the original. He always put his own Iraqi spin on it. Once, I remember we were doing some DIY, and after we finished, my dad went, Khalas, Habibi, now your uncle, he is Bob. That's not... I got into drama at uni, he called me up, he was like, Hasan, opening night? Inshallah, today you hurt yourself very badly, yes, inshallah. The problem is, I think the reason he sounds too Arab is because in Arabic, we don't have the letter P. There's no letter P in the language of Arabic. It was stolen from us, it's now in the British Museum. You can see it there. We have no letter P, so if you say, for example, in Arabic, Pepsi becomes Bipsi. Parliament, Barlaman. Platypus, Baladibus. So I remember I had a decision to make once. I remember when I was young. My dad said, Hasan, Habibi, the choice is yours. Now the ball is in your bitch. The ball is in your court. It's in your court, Dad. I was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I used to go to like the mosque every day in Edinburgh. Have you guys ever heard a Scottish Muslim speak? It's surreal. Salamu alaikum, brother. Every time a Scottish Muslim said that to me, I was always worried they were going to add the words, ya cunt. I didn't even know. When I was there, right, I remember this guy, I was with this comedian, and he was like, oh, mate, I love the Fringe. Mate, this guy was local. I absolutely love the Fringe. Mate, for me, it's really sort of like my Mecca. I was like, damn, what would I say? Because I'm Muslim, right? So my Mecca, it's just Mecca. So what's like a pilgrimage site for British people? You know, they try and visit as often as they can in their lives. I said to them, listen, this right here, this is my Benidorm. Okay, this is my Glastonbury. I love this place. Make some noise if you've been to Glastonbury. Yeah. Excellent. Make some noise if you've been to Mecca. Yeah. Okay. Make some noise if you've been to Glastonbury and Mecca. No. Okay, that Venn diagram does not. Well, actually, what would it look like if we had such a Venn diagram? Well, okay, so one circle you would have Mecca, and the other circle you would have Glastonbury, and in that very narrow bit in the middle, all you'd have 90s pop star Muslim revert Sinead O'Connor. That's the only. Nothing compares to you, sister. Mashallah. Mashallah. My parents are divorced. My parents are so divorced, it's actually a miracle I'm alive. My parents are very divorced. But they kind of hate each other throughout my childhood. And it was only when I turned 7 that they finally did the responsible thing and had 2 more children. So I would have a support network, you understand. Give me a cheer if your parents are divorced. Woo! Give me a cheer if your parents are still together. Woo! That's so smug. No, I haven't got anything against people whose parents are still together, although it is deeply unnatural. I just believe in the sanctity of divorce. You know what I'm saying? That's all I believe. But I think there's a difference between Arab divorce and like British, like kind of white divorce. I'll tell you, because my friend Rachel, she posted on Instagram, she posted a selfie and she was like, just had an amazing time at my ex-husband's surprise birthday, which it was a pleasure to organise. I thought your divorce was stronger than my parents' marriage. How is that possible? The only surprise that my mum would organise for my dad is an attempted assassination. That's the only... Surprise, Habibi! Just take a selfie. Such a pleasure to be at his surprise death day, mashallah. Very happy. I'll tell you, just before I go, I'll do one more joke. Before I go, just say you can follow me I'm on Instagram. I'm at Amusing Arab. Amusing Arab. Amusing is in like funny. I say that because I did a gig in Bristol and someone came up to me afterwards and said, Sorry, mate, I can't find you on Instagram. Can you type it in? I looked at the phone, they typed in The Amazing Arab. Like I'm a circus act. Like I juggle shisha pipes on a camel. Habibi, please, Habibi. So, I'm doing a show this week, actually, on Thursday, called Too Muslim, Too Furious, Mecca Drift. It's on a top secret. It's £1 tickets, a top secret in Covent Garden. Half the money goes to medical aid for Palestinians. So, yes, specifically my co-performer's half. She's very generous. She's a very generous personality. But I'll leave you on this. I'll tell you, I have a PhD in oncology. Once, after a gig in Swansea, someone came up to me and said, so you're into oncology then, are you? Does that mean you can read my star sign? I said, listen, only if it's cancer. That's the only one. What's oncology? Does anyone know? Shout it out. What's oncology? Cancer region, exactly. Did you say cancer, my friend? What's your name, sir? Ricky, exactly correct. What do you do, Ricky? Oh, sorry, am I allowed to talk? Am I allowed to talk to Ricky?
It's alright.
Yeah.
I'll pretend I've got drinks.
Oh, no. Oh my God, faux palm. A film journalist. I'd love to go into that, but you've not got the correct sticker. So we'll leave it there. A question I'll ask now to everyone, right? If someone has a PhD in oncology, what title does that give them? Doctor. Nearly right. It's actually hero. It's slightly different for oncology. I've been Hasan Al-Habib. You've been great. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
And that was Hasan Al-Habib. Thanks, Hasan, for a lovely set. That was really great. Cool. So I think the first question I really want to ask is, how is the ongoing Islamisation of Britain going?
You mean Britannia, Brother James. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Saudi Arabia, yes.
I mean, both perfectly morally justified monarchies as these things go. I mean, like, it does strike me as a very, like, it's a very high-risk way of opening a set with that. Like, you know, you're provoking an audience while also, like, setting out your stall of, like, you know, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to talk about. Like, how often does that go wrong as an opening gambit?
It's a good question. I think I've learned to judge it now, but to be honest, if you're doing a gig in a room with at least 20 people in it, chances are someone is going to know the correct response.
Yeah.
And I've done enough gigs where you'd be amazed at how often I have white guys coming up to me after the show wanting to speak to me in Arabic. It's a recurring theme, so I thought, why don't I capitalize on this?
How much has who you are been shaped by the legacy of the Iraq War? I mean, like, what was the experience of growing up with those influences like?
Yeah, I think, when I was growing up, there were two major world events that shaped my childhood. The first was 9/11, and the second was the Gulf War. And with 9/11, because of my primary school, I was the only Arab, I was the only Muslim in my primary school. I grew up in this small, very small town, about half an hour south of Birmingham. So that meant, like, I got a lot of racism, bullying around that. But then when I went to secondary school, it was in inner city Birmingham. It was much more diverse, and so I was definitely not the only Muslim around. But during the Iraq War, I was definitely the only Iraqi. So that was a much more isolating experience, and I really felt like I was the face of this conflict, which is also the first conflict really to be televised in history. Like, every day you could watch the 10 o'clock news, and newscasters would tell you about this British soldier was killed, and this is the Iraqi city we've taken today, or whatever. And I always remember my form tutor was this French woman. She taught French, and the day that they found Saddam, they captured Saddam Hussein, she came in and she said, class, what do you think they should do with Saddam?
There's a reason why the International War Crimes Tribunal at The Hague is not staffed by 12-year-olds.
She wanted to do the Youth Hague. Initiate the Youth Hague program. And obviously this room full of, like, 11-year-old Brummies is ominously silent, and everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
So I said, I think they should execute him, miss, because he killed so many people. And she went, but Hasan, don't you think this makes you as bad as him?
No, I think there's probably not. I think there's there's a difference of several 100,000 there, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly. Reasons why not.
Wow. And when you're a kid, there's times in your life where you know you're right.
Yeah.
But because you're a child, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the adult's never going to concede to a child. So it was this really infuriating thing of times of, like, everyone wants to talk to me about the war. Everyone gets my opinion on it. And it's the last thing I want to talk about because I feel so alien, from everyone else, really. But it's been amazing from a comedy perspective. It's been really, really helpful from a comedy perspective, that's for sure.
So, I mean, comedically, you make a lot of hay with the contrast between British thing A and sort of Arab Muslim thing B, whether that's, accent, idiom, pilgrimage. I think it's really a really interesting spin to apply that to something as personal as your parents' divorce. So I'm really curious to know, like, have they seen this material? And if so, what did they think?
James, my parents would be uncomfortable on the rare occasions that I discuss their divorce with them. So the thought of you and I discussing their divorce is really not something they'd be keen on. But yeah, I really think that my next Fringe show is going to be about my parents' divorce. I was really thinking about what to do, and my first one was all about basically my disconnect as a Brummie Iraqi with the country of Iraq, having never been there.
Yeah.
And that's really shaped my life. And I think the other thing that really shaped my life was my parents' divorce. And it's interesting because it's talking about going back to Iraq is something that it's kind of more difficult to connect with British people about, but divorce is something British people know so well, and so many British people have grown up as children of divorce. And you're right, like it is, I spend a lot of my time like making fun of things that Arabs do or making fun of things that British people do. And divorce is one of the things I really respect British culture around. I think they do it so much better than Arab because like my parents just don't talk. They do not talk. And it's not like they don't talk now. They never spoke after their divorce. And that was really difficult because I was the eldest child. And so any message, and you can imagine after a divorce, there's a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, the amount of admin is colossal. I mean, so you're there as like a dead drop. You're there as transmitting messages from A to B.
Exactly, and as an 11-year-old child, that's really it's interesting because like you'll have lots of listeners that aren't the children of divorce. I remember a friend of mine whose parents are divorced. She said to me, "It's like I don't fully trust anyone whose parents aren't divorced because it's like they've missed such a key traumatic experience in life, and it shapes you, and it's like you've not really lived a life unless your parents have got divorced, because then like there's all this stuff that has to be communicated with a lot of like insults and aggression, and it's like the message that I transmit from mum to dad, that makes dad really angry, so he's gonna like, and it's awful. It's really, really tough. But British people, you guys talk. That's no problem. It's like we talk. I remember someone said something to me about like, the joke. This woman was involved in the planning of her ex-husband's birthday. That is insane to me. Insane.
Yeah. I mean, I find it fascinating. So much of this as well is like, that's a huge burden to place on a child, right? Not just the sort of actually reporting the information, but sort of the emotional loading of that, and having these sort of terrible versions of people that you love painted by somebody else that you love. I mean, that's got to be really shattering and difficult to deal with.
Very, very difficult, and it's so funny because like. Because my parents never liked each other. I mean, like British divorce and Arab divorce, I think is so different because in British divorce, there's this classic thing of you're meant to reassure the children, this isn't your fault.
Yes.
If my parents had said, we're getting divorced and it's completely because of you, I would have laughed. I'd have been like, you guys hate each other from day one. Obviously, it's not me. It's you. It's your problem. But that's the weird thing of like in Arab culture as well. And like for Muslim, there's this quote. I don't know if it's a quote. I don't know exactly what the background is, and I don't want to get my Islamic knowledge wrong. But there's this thing of like in Islam, divorce is the worst thing that isn't haram. So like it's allowed, it's permitted in Islam, but it's like really seen as not a good thing to do, which is why I think my parents did have another 2 children. Well, they have 3 children, all us knowing like we don't like each other, but you kind of have to have kids. And so it all led up to this very weird dynamic that I think would be interesting to explore because it's so different, like I say, to the idea, and like, because also British divorce, I think a lot of times is characterized by infidelity. That was something that was really interesting to me. Is that like I remember doing comedy at uni. There were 3 topics that always came up. One was like children's TV shows with adult themes. So the Teletubbies do Crack, or Harry Potter having an orgy, whatever. The second was, what was the third one? 2 was Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Loads of Christian stuff from school. And 3, divorce. Like infidelity, parents cheating on each other, whatever. And I was really like, oh, wow, that's something that's kind of almost cultural. So, yeah, it's something I'm really interested to compare between the 2 sides. And also something that I'm really like, oh, loads of people are going to be able to connect with this and be interested with this as a show theme or, show topic to explore.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like your parents' divorce was almost sort of predestined, ultimately. And like, why were they together in the first place? Because, I mean, you provided lots of reasons why they should be apart. I mean, not least their deep, profound and abiding hatred of each other, to the extent they're willing to make their child the vessel of that hate and its messenger. But, I mean, why were they together in the first place?
See, this is such an interesting aspect of the divorce. It's like, my siblings and I realized quite early on, you don't talk to our parents about like early life, because that involved that. Then the divorce will come up, and then they'll get angry, and then it'll be like, be like a lecture, or be their hate on each other, whatever. So there's so much about my parents I actually don't know, because I'm kind of afraid to ask. I don't really know how they got together. I kind of wonder if it might have been like my mum. I honestly, I don't know. It would be like speculation on my part.
Do you have
and
aunts,
that's really
aunts
weird.
uncles, any other relatives that you could ask for a bit of the backstory, so you could make inquiries indirectly? I mean, I always find these sorts of things are like, they're good to know, and obviously you want to get it direct from the horse's mouth, because that will, I mean, even if it's not the most accurate version of events, the colour and the version of that is painted by the person is itself indicative, and certainly the contrast between the versions that you would get would be indicative. But I mean, it's such a core part of like the narrative of who you are, and having those chunks of your past missing, I think, that's part of your personal mythology, even if it's not you personally who experienced it. I mean, there are significant chunks of my family history that are missing for various sort of world historical reasons that the people that experienced them desperately wanted to forget for whatever reason. And I'm very grateful to other members of my family who have then stepped in to try and fill in some of those gaps. So I now have, some degree of, some photographs and some stories and some letters and things like that, about these people who would otherwise be sort of entirely lost to history. I mean, is that something that you could make inquiries with? Are there people that could be those sort of potential secondary sources there for you?
Honestly, a lot of them are in Iraq.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I could, it's such a weird thing of like, that's because I think when my parents got divorced, that was honestly one of the happiest moments in my life, was realizing they're actually going to be apart. We're not going to have these daily or weekly arguments. So it was almost like kind of, I don't know if this expression is right, but like, don't ask, don't tell. Like, I don't even want to know. You don't want to peek behind the curtain. Respect, yeah. Right. But like, because I remember, like, this often thing you hear about in films, or you hear your friends talk about. It's like, oh, how did your parents meet?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like, like, how did my dad first get my mum interested in her, or was it vice versa? Or like, I literally do not even know how they met. Obviously in Muslims, it's like quite often there'll be like an arranged marriage of some sort. Was it an arranged marriage? I don't know. And there's something really kind of sad about having that ignorance, as you say, about your own, it's not my childhood, but like your own kind of history. So yeah, it's probably as part of the show, I am going to have to investigate that to some extent.
Well, I mean, if your first show is about, a disconnection from your Iraqi background, and your second show is about divorce, and it sounds to me like there's a trip to Baghdad to tie up those threads, and that's the tax-deductible research trip, right?
Exactly, tax-deductible, precisely that. You're a genius, James. Honestly.
So I mean, like, it sounds like you've got a degree of fondness and respect for that sort of, the modern, relatively amicable model of British divorce. Like, as somebody who's got a foot in both cultures, I mean, how do you approach your own relationships and dare I ask, breakups? Like, are you much more in the sort of the British mode for that, or do you have a degree of Iraqi vitriol when that happens?
James, it's another banger of a question. Honestly, you've done this podcasting before, I can tell.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
There's no way this is your first.
At least twice, yeah.
I think it's definitely impacted me quite deeply in the sense of, like, for me, to get married to someone, which is definitely something I want to do. I would have to be as close to 100% certain that this is the woman I'm supposed to be with, or this would work. Because again, the thought of putting my kids through what me and my siblings went through is just like, it's just not palatable. It's not palatable at all. And that was the thing, like, my parents, like, even going on holiday with my dad would never ask, like, what do you guys want to do? Or, like, do you have any preferences on where we go? Or do you want to eat now? It was just, we would just do what he said. And this idea of, like, I could take my kids' input into, and, like, take their opinions into account. I was like, oh, yeah, that probably would work better. So, yeah, I think it's definitely made me, like, and also the other thing impact it's had in previous relationships, anytime anything has gone like kind of wrong, or I found something out about the other person that I'm worried, like, is this a deal breaker for me? It's over. It's over. Like, I just can't get over that. And I remember I've only actually broken up with someone once. And it was for a really, that's the other thing. It was for a really good reason. Basically, they were going to America, so like, it couldn't work. But I remember still feeling really bad about it. And because I realized also in all the other relationships, it's always been basically me waiting to get broken up with. Like, I just wouldn't do it myself. I don't know if it's because I was kind of traumatized by my parents' split, that I'm just like, to avoid this being an argument, let me just let it happen, and then just sort of nod my head. God, this is good. A lot of people charge for this kind of therapy, James.
I know a lot of people who do charge for this sort of therapy, so I'm very happy to facilitate an introduction. I like, genuinely, probably, like, after vaguely works in IT, therapist is the next most common occupation of quantum leopard regulars. I'm deadly serious. I mean, it sounds to me like you are, and it sounds to me like you're aware of this, if perhaps not in these exact terms. It's made you romantically cautious. It's made you romantically risk averse, to some degree conflict avoidant, but also to some extent a perfectionist. Like, you're setting the bar high because you've seen what it can look like if people get together in ways that are irreversible, and 3 children is pretty irreversible. Without having that extremely high degree of certainty that this is your forever person.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Exactly. And that's really hard because you can't. How can you know for certain? I think in general society's gotten away from this idea of the one, because it's very toxic and it doesn't make any sense. So I definitely don't subscribe to that, but it is a kind of thing of I'd be very conscious as to, like, how many arguments are we having, and how serious do they get, and what are they about, and then kind of extrapolate, like, over the course of like a 20-30 year relationship. Would that number of arguments, and let's assume they get more frequent as the relationship goes on and they get maybe more severe, would it last? Could it last like raising children? And
so
could it last?
You've made several assumptions there. You've made the assumptions that there will be A, that many arguments, B, that they will increase in frequency and intensity, and those are huge assumptions, right? I'm truly, like, having a relationship where you're never going to disagree is a little perhaps unrealistic, surely then the question is, okay, well, how well do I deal with conflict with this person? You know, am I able to fix this? Are we able to compromise and overcome this? And when we disagree, are we able to present ourselves calmly and not become the worst versions of ourselves really, really quickly, right? Are we able to support each other in this and make that constructive? Or is it something that is one day going to be part of our child's second Edinburgh hour?
Exactly. And that's the other thing, is that you're so right, because and I talk about this in my debut show. Iraqis are known for two things: one, being funny, and two, being really angry. And like, anger in those moments just massively exacerbates the problem, far beyond how big the problem actually could have been. And the other thing it taught me, like, I don't know, my dad did such a great job. Like, so my siblings and I lived with my dad growing up. So he was a single parent, and I have a huge amount of admiration and respect and gratitude for how he raised us. But we are talking about a man that in 31 years of life, I've never heard this man say sorry. To no one. I've never heard him say sorry. And I think actually that, coupled with my being British, I'd say sorry every other word.
Yep.
I really learnt the value of doing that. So I think you're right. Yeah, like that those two things can really help, and maybe actually get to the point where, as you say, those two assumptions aren't necessarily correct for a relationship.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a very strong model of what not to do, and how not to approach these things. And then the next constructive step for you is, okay, well, what can I learn from that that's not gonna get in the way, that isn't going to mean that I simultaneously hold the people that I love in a far too high a standard, but also far too low a standard at the same time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
This
is really interesting, because it's just so funny that set from Quantum. I was thinking about, that thing happened on my friend's Instagram story where they said, just so happy to have gone to my ex-husband's 40th birthday or whatever.
Yeah.
That happened like that week, and I remember thinking, I've got to write something about this. And then I just did nothing about divorce for the next God knows how many months until now. And now I'm like, no, this is the second hour. Because the second hour is I've heard this from loads of people, it's like really challenging, because you spend basically your whole nascent comedy career building up to the first one, and then suddenly it's just like, that's
absolutely,
in the bin.
Yeah.
But I think talking to you especially has made me realize, I think this thing has legs and is like interesting, and you could get an audience to emotionally attach to this. Which is worth its weight in gold if you can.
It's you've got the cross-cultural angle, which gives you a unique take on it, but it's also very relatable. It is the same but different, and that is exactly what everyone wants. Yeah. So, so being a doctor of oncology must be an incredibly busy and stressful job. So, how do you fit comedy around that, like financially, but also emotionally?
I'm going to get existential with the state of the comedy industry, because Stuart Lee did like a viral interview clip of this recently, talking about how when he was growing up, you could live in this flat, get paid being stand-up. You could live, basically, you could live as an amateur stand-up comedian or semi-pro stand-up comedian, whereas now that's just not possible. It feels like now, if you want to succeed in comedy, you either need to be rich or work at least part-time, if not full-time.
Yes.
And obviously, if you're doing the latter, that means you've got less time to do comedy, or more of your comedy time is kind of spent towards, it's like targeted towards actually earning money.
Yeah.
Rather than perhaps like creatively.
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm quite lucky that my job is like quite flexible, and that was something I looked for when I was looking for a job, because a lot of my kind of comedy chops I developed at university, and I was doing my PhD. And the thing about doing a PhD is it's quite flexible. It's like a lot of work, and it's very kind of time intensive. But I could do a gig at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., come back to the lab for 11 p.m. and just get on with my day, and no one would be like, Hasan, you're failing this. Hasan, you're doing this badly. Why haven't you done this, etc. So, but that's not necessarily replicable for a lot of people. So, and I'm also very lucky because I live with my mum and my aunt. Like I'm very lucky that I live with them in a really like relatively central London location. That makes it a lot easier to gig as well. And also going to like doing footlights. I went to university with so many people that went into comedy, and having that network of people that I could ask for advice or that really helps. I can't imagine starting stand-up on the London comedy circuit. It's just so hard. It's so hard. Like even just to book a gig, it's so difficult, and you have to be great from the get-go. Otherwise, it just feels like you would think to yourself, it's not worth it. Why am I doing this? So yeah, it's depressing, but it's really, really hard, and I'm very, very lucky that I have the circumstances to balance it in the way that I do. Yeah. But it's really tough.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying there, I think makes a lot of sense. Like having the right background to give you confidence within that, like educationally speaking, having the occupational flexibility. I mean, I was enormously lucky with my first sort of like grown-up job in London. I was working night shifts, 7 nights on, 7 nights off, 10:30 in the at night until 6:30 in the morning. But then I had a week off every other week that I could, gig with, right? And then after that, when I moved to days, like I was finishing in central London at like 7 p.m. and I could go out and gig in the evening or go out of town and gig, and provided I was at home and in bed by like 1 a.m. I could still have a full night's sleep, get up and be at work at a sensible o'clock, and it was all fine. And having that enormously helpful. And in terms of the family situation, I mean, comedy is like so many other professions that people actually want to get started in. If you have got family in like anywhere up to sort of anywhere in the Greater London area that you can live with for cheap or free, that is going to be a massive leg up in any industry that you want to get into, because London is where so many of these things happen, right? So yeah, that makes a huge amount of sense. Cool. So if you could say anything to yourself at the age of 18, what would it be?
18-year-old me needs to calm down.
Okay, so in what way is 18-year-old you an absolute psycho or hot mess? Like, what kind of calm do we need here?
I think it's like kind of... I remember there's a friend of mine at uni, undergrad, she used to call me drama queen Hasan.
Okay.
I'd just get so angry about, like... I think also because... So, ironically, not ironically, interestingly, this is something that I look for in other people is thoughtfulness. Is like someone that is kind of selfless and thinks about other people before themselves. And if I felt like I was doing that for someone else, but they weren't reciprocating, that would kind of make me annoyed. That would get me angry. And then maybe that wasn't a fair situation to get angry with them. But then I'd get the next opportunity I had to get angry with them, then I would do that. Or so there was that, and also just be less, because you make enemies that way. And I remember my agent, she gave me 2 bits of advice. She said, 1, work harder than anyone else, and 2, be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to know who's going to get you a gig, who's going to get you a cast in something, who's going to get you a podcast appearance. Thanks so much again for that, James. And these are all things that, like, over a whole like career, they really, really build up and can pay off or can cost you. And being angry is a great way to like lose friends, lose an audience, etc. So I think that, and just be a bit less like arrogant. Comedy will do that. Comedy humbles people naturally. Really, really brings people down to earth. Like one day you're supporting or you're on the same lineup as massive name, and then the next day you're in a room, 15 people walking behind you, etc. So, but the quicker that you can learn to humble yourself, and the better that you're able to deal with the setbacks as well. You're so much more equipped to do that. And again, comedy shoots plenty of setbacks your way. So yeah, less arrogant and less angry.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I think the people who... Comedy can be a very psychologically constructive thing to do if you are self-aware about it, and have enough confidence to withstand those challenges and not internalize them and let them curdle into, hatred and, I mean, in some cases, fascist radicalization, right? In the most extreme cases. That was a really lovely set and a really lovely chat. If people want to catch up with your things, where can they do that? What have you got to plug?
Follow me on social media. I'm at Amusing Arab, most active on Instagram, and I'll probably be touring my sold out Edinburgh solo show, Death to the West Midlands, so look out for that as well.
Fantastic, amazing. Love yourself, man. Love to speak to you, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks
Bye.
so much, bro. See you soon.
That was the Quantum Leopard podcast. If you want to catch a live show in London, look us up at Linktree /Quantum Leopard to sign up to the mailing list. We will never take advertising because advertising is cultural poison, but from each according to their ability to each according to their need. So if you enjoyed our guests in your ears, but would like them in your eyes as well, we have videos of whole shows up on patreon.com/Quantum Leopard. We only charge when a new live show video comes out. If you enjoyed the show, why not give us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice and or share this episode on the socials. Editing was by Rhys Lawton, who is conventionally attractive and fun at parties. Music was composed and produced by Rooks Production Services at I Am Rooks on the socials. That's Rooks with an E. The Quantum Leopard podcast is distributed and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 international license, which means you can share it as much as you like, but don't change it or sell it in any way because I will find out where you live. Kind love and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you everyone for listening today, and thank you especially to our top tier patrons who we could not do this without you. The wonderful Gareth, the brilliant Jenny, the incredible Kate, Niblick, whose glory is brighter than a billion suns, Richard, who makes angels weep, Terry, who's just so superb that those who gaze upon them weep at their loveliness, and also another Richard. We've got 2 Richards. We've got 2 Richards who are top tier patrons. What a delight. Thank you so much. We genuinely could not do this without you. You're the best. Okay, bye.
Unfortunately, people in London, Southerners, love to laugh at provincial accents. As a Brummie, I know this.